It was the final day of their Costa Rican vacation, and cousins Marleen and Tess decided to hike one last trail before flying home. The sun was bright, the jungle green and humming. They hadn't seen much wildlife yet, but they were enjoying the air, the chatter, and the freedom of being far from routine. They reached a clearing where tall grass gave way to a perfect ridge view. Tess raised her phone. "One last selfie for the trip," she said, laughing. Marleen struck a goofy pose, throwing her arm wide as Tess snapped the shot. It was one of those candid, carefree moments they'd remember for years. They didn't look at the picture until much later, back at the lodge. Flipping through the day's photos, Tess suddenly frowned. "Wait, what's that?" she asked, zooming in on the background. Nestled just past Marleen's outstretched arm, in the shadows of the brush, were two unmistakable eyes. Marleen leaned over. "Is that a person?" she whispered. But the outline wasn't human. It was low, shadowed, and fuzzy. She increased the brightness. Now it was clearer, small animal, crouched in the foliage, half hidden, ears forward, watching them. Neither of them had noticed anything unusual while taking the picture. But before we continue, please don't forget to leave a like, subscribe, and ring the notifications bell so you never miss our upcoming stories. Curiosity sparked. They showed the photo to their host, a local guide named Luis. He studied it for a long moment, then chuckled. "That's a coati," he said. "Very curious creatures. Not dangerous, just shy. You were lucky to see one so close." He pointed out the nose and ringed tail hidden behind a leaf. Relieved, they laughed, part nervous energy, part excitement. They hadn't realized anything was nearby. The coati must have been still as stone. "It must have been watching us the whole time," Marleen said. That night, they looked up more about the animal. Related to raccoons, social, clever, often seen alone in that area. The next morning, they returned to the same trail, this time walking more slowly. They paused at the clearing, retracing their steps. "He was right there," Tess said, crouching by the bushes. Nothing stirred now, just a bird call in the distance. Still, the moment felt more alive, like the forest was listening. As they walked back, they started noticing more footprints in the mud, a flash of green lizard tail, the rhythmic movement of leaves from something small and unseen. It was as if the first encounter had opened their senses. "Makes you wonder how much we miss when we're not really looking," Marleen said. Later that afternoon, Luis approached them again. "You know," he said, "coatis sometimes follow hikers out of curiosity, not for food, just to observe." He smiled. "You might have had a shadow all day." The idea sent a quiet thrill through them. They scanned their old photos again, just in case. Sure enough, in two earlier shots, there it was just barely. A shape in the background, a shadow crossing a fallen log. They hadn't noticed before. It was subtle, like the forest leaving breadcrumbs. "It was with us longer than we thought," Tess said, almost like it was part of the hike. That evening, the cousins sat on the porch of their lodge, watching the light change over the trees. "I like thinking it chose to watch us," Marleen said. "Not out of fear, just curiosity." Tess nodded. "Makes me want to walk through life like that, more aware, more curious." They both smiled. As they packed the next day, Marleen printed the original photo and tucked it into her journal. "It's weird," she said. "We came for adventure, but the best story happened in silence, in the background." Tess agreed. "It's kind of beautiful, actually. We thought we were seeing the forest, but it was seeing us too." When they returned home, the photo became their favorite souvenir, not because of what was front and center, but because of what was hiding quietly behind. It reminded them of stillness, presence, and wonder. Something wild had watched them, unafraid, and let them walk away without ever knowing, until they looked more closely. Months later, Marleen started taking weekly nature walks at a nearby reserve. She didn't take her phone, just a notebook and binoculars. She learned the bird calls. She began recognizing tracks. She walked slowly, like someone was watching, not in fear, but in quiet hope. Maybe, she thought, curiosity is a two-way street. Tess began sketching again, something she hadn't done since university. She found herself drawing not the obvious things, but what might be hiding. A foxtail behind a bush, a mouse peeking from roots, a deer half lost in shadows. Not everything has to be seen, she told herself. Some things just need space. They stayed close, exchanging letters and trail stories. They called it coati vision, that special kind of awareness you can only gain when you pause, when you really look, when you're okay not being the center of the photo, when you know that sometimes something just out of sight makes the moment whole. The photo made it to a local gallery. The title, Unseen Witness. Most people didn't notice the animal right away. They'd lean in, squint, and gasp with delight when they found it. Marleen always watched quietly from the corner, enjoying the moment when someone's eyes widened and they, too, saw what had been there all along. The forest never said goodbye, but it stayed with them, in slower walks, in softer attention, in the belief that the world was still full of little watchers curious, silent, unseen. The cousins promised to return one day, not for selfies, but to listen, to notice, to let the woods see them again. Years later, when Marleen and Tess finally returned to that Costa Rican trail, they didn't take photos or rush to the ridge. They simply stood in the clearing, quiet and still, letting the forest breathe around them. And then, just at the edge of the brush, they saw it, a flick of a ringed tail, a coati watching from the shadows, just as before. They didn't move, didn't speak, only smiled, hearts full, knowing the forest hadn't forgotten. Maybe it wasn't the same creature, maybe it was, but in that silent moment of mutual awareness, they felt the truth they had carried for years. Some of the most beautiful connections are the ones you never try to capture, only honor by being fully present. Thank you for watching, and if you enjoyed this story, please don't forget to leave a like, subscribe, and ring the notifications bell so you can join us next time for more quiet wonders and amazing videos right here on our YouTube channel.